extra, still going strongly in the closing minutes. Great one by Kevin McAllister! What a goal that is! Delivery's good, there's Hagen. Now McGrillen, he scored!
It's Stokes on a hat-trick! Goal number 3 for Anthony Stokes!
Ralston saw off Robertson and delivered! Sybil scores! That's the goal! That's the moment! Samuel off and running again. Is it going to be the hat-trick? You know it is.
Welcome to Falkirk Daft, your unofficial podcast dedicated to everything to do with the Bairns. We should at this point be talking about the Alloa game, but due to the Queen's passing, it's all about Dunfermline on this week's show. Hello, I am John McAnally, and it was down in the town of Dunfermline where most of the fighting was done, and a loyal supporter of Falkirk who was shot by a Dunfermline gun is Mr. Ross Wayne.
I would take that. I would take one from them.
Shot by a Dunfermline gun, would you?
Well, I'd get back up. I would get back up. They're not keeping me down.
Absolutely not. Richie Cadet, stick one in the back of the net. Ooh-ah. So obviously, the game cancelled at the weekend for obvious reasons. Football cancelled right across the country. But I just, honest to God, Ross, I didn't know what to do with my Saturday.
No, it was a little bit odd, wasn't it?
I cleaned the oven.
Well, that's never good.
I know. I cleaned the oven. I did housework. Ironed. Just really boring tasks.
Listen, this Saturday's going to make up for last Saturday.
Oh, isn't it just? Bring back the football, man. Bring back the football.
Yes.
Obviously, the Alloa game was cancelled. News from the club. We don't know when that rearranged fixture at this point is going to be. But I always like a game under the floodlights anyway. I always like a wee Tuesday or Wednesday under the floodlights. You know, just at this time of the year, especially when it's getting dark and you've got the floodlights on. Though obviously the cost of electricity, might.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Cost the club a wee bit, but
we'll get the mobile phone lights out, won't we?
Aye, could everyone please put up their mobile phone light, please? We need to light the pitch, thanks. It's getting to that point, isn't it? But yeah, we don't know when that's going to be. Yeah, you got any inklings, Ross? You heard anything?
No. I assume they're obviously hanging off for an appropriate date. I think there's internationals coming up and there's cup dates, isn't there, with this, the Challenge Cup? So
whatever it's called,
probably having a look at dates and stuff. So hopefully sooner rather than later, if I'm being honest, because it's a shame that it was. I know why it was postponed, right? However, it's a shame that the games were postponed because I think football could have dealt with it absolutely fine. I'm sure there would have been a minute's applause or a minute's silence, whatever was going to happen, and it's obviously going to happen this weekend anyway. And if anything, I know they were talking about police resource. Surely the police resource will be worse this weekend than it would have been last weekend.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much. Obviously, there's going to be. I think it's obviously there during the week because she was in Scotland and all the everything. Transferring the coffin from Balmoral to Edinburgh. I guess that's probably a big lot to do with it. But anyway, a game under the floodlights against Alloa at the stadium will be decent anyway. So we'll wait and find out when that will be. Other bits of news, Kevin Beattie. Now, I don't know Kevin, but he's been appointed new supporter liaison officer. He's been a lifelong supporter of the club since 1977, a season ticket holder, coached through the community teams and was a member of the board in 2019. And he's going to be, as role of supporter liaison officer, he'll improve the matchday experience with a safe environment. He'll provide a means of continual communication in both directions between the authorities, the club and the fans. This will be done through the establishment of a working relationship with all parties to provide a mutual understanding of each other's expectations and engagement with fan groups and individuals on a regular basis to help improve the supporter experience.
And his first game's Dunfermline, is it?
Do you know Kevin? I don't know him.
Yeah, kind of. I don't know him really well, but he's a massive Falkirk fan. From what I see and hear. So, and I know a few big Bairns who know him well and they vouch for him. So I'm sure.
It's like the God. It's like the mafia. It's like they vouch for him. It's okay. He can come in. He's all right. He's a good guy. He's a good guy.
He's one of us. Yeah,
he's one of us. So I don't know what an SLO does, but I'm sure Kevin, you'll be.
No, I know there's some clubs that take it to an extreme, like remember a few years ago when they first established it, like the people were like fans were taking on the, well, Kevin's a fan as well, but in terms of, I think in the early days of that type of role, it didn't land well at all because people were looking at that role as being a bit of someone that the fans weren't going to trust because they were going to be watching and all this kind of stuff. And I'm sure that's not what the role's going to be looking like now. It's a few years on, and Kevin, as he says, he's a massive Burns fan, and he'll just be looking to try and do what he can, especially trying to promote stuff for families and stuff.
I know, if you can enhance his supporter experience on match day, we started seeing a wee bit of a return to it, a wee bit of entertainment, the kids playing on the pitch, the crossbar challenges, all that sort of stuff adds to the game. And I applaud anything that can bring entertainment to the stadium, and looking for stuff like that. So hopefully Kevin can get stuck right in about that. Again, as I say, there's not much news to report, Ross. To the point that we were talking about the digitisation of the Falkirk FC minute books from 1917. There must be some really interesting stuff in here, right?
Oh, I bet you there is. There's loads of wee sort of juicy bits of information and gossip.
I know. See if you could be bored to go through it. I bet you'd find some absolute belters in there.
Listen, I'm sure Michael White and the
Michael White will be loving this. He will be loving this. Aside from the fact, I think there is, like I read here, there's 3,000 pages of minutes that need to be scanned into HD quality and then transcribed. So that goes from 1917 right through to 78. What I want to see is, I want to see from the last 5. I want to see the minutes from the last 5 or 6 years. That's what I want to see.
Listen, I bet you've not even minuted most of the meetings that I've taken.
Seconds, it's the seconds. That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, that would be the good stuff. That would be the good stuff right there.
It would
be.
If
you want to get in help and help the trust with that, actually, they're looking for people to help them with all that. So you can get in touch with them, ffhtdigitisation@gmail.com, or you can fill out the contact form, falkirkfootballheritagetrust.wordpress.com. And I'm sure if you've got a spare bit of time in your hand, I'm sure Michael would love your help on that, because that sounds like a job.
Most days by lunchtime, aren't you? That sounds like
yeah. Exactly. Well, yeah. So yeah, help Michael with that, because that sounds like a hell of a
cleaning
job.
ovens and stuff,
That's what could have done that on Saturday together. We could have sat and like, oh, did you see what happened in 1920, Ross? Oh, there you are. Can't believe we signed William Waddle or whatever we did. Right. So yes. Good luck with that, guys. Right, okay, to correspondence, Ross. Last week, I think line of the week was we had a new nickname for our Mercurial PE teacher. And would you like to fill in the supporters and what new nickname was?
Yeah, so we had a message from one of the fans to nickname him the Tampon. 1 week in, 3 weeks out. I thought that was absolutely fantastic, to be fair.
I know, Big Ryan, God bless him. We've been giving him the name of the PE teacher, and that's kind of stuck with him. But Leslie Stoddard reached out saying, news just in, apparently the club have been trying to get a sponsorship deal with Tampax following this week's podcast. They couldn't get the deal done, though, as there were too many strings attached.
Brilliant.
Listen, that's a dad joke you would be proud of.
It's a proper dad joke.
Shout out to Leslie for that, absolute belter. That Gregor Aberall actually has been in touch as well about Williamson. He's referring to Williamson as the PE teacher. We did have in the 70s a real PE teacher who also played right back, and in fact he became head of PE at Alva Academy. My old pal Gregor Abel.
So Gregor Abel is ex-Burns legend Gregor Abel, isn't it? That's brilliant.
And he was head of PE at Alva Academy. Maybe he could get Ryan a job.
Well, listen, he'd be better off.
Hopefully Ryan will be back soon.
I bet you Gregor Abel was never nicknamed the Tampon.
So Gregor Abel was there you go. Head of PE at Alva Academy. There you go. So thanks for getting in touch with that. Paul Ferguson gets in touch and says, if my memory isn't playing me tricks, I'm sure Frank Coulson, who played with Partick, was head of PE when I was at Derry High in the 70s. I know whoever it was always got stick on a Monday. So this goes back, actually, my mate who used to play for Steny and Alloa, Ross Hamilton, he's a PE teacher as well. There must be several ex-footballers out there that are actually PE teachers.
Yeah, there must be something in it.
Aye. So there you go. If you know a footballer that was a PE teacher or was your PE teacher, please get in touch with us and let us know at the usual outlets on our socials. Want to hear about more Bairns abroad, Ross?
Yeah. So we've got Keith. He says, "Hi, Falkirk fan listening in Halifax, Nova Scotia, over in Canada. Name's Keith Adam. Loving the podcast. Keep it up. I think we know who he's talking about here. He's got a ginger head brother called Stuart, who we had on an earlier episode. He also used to play football in my younger years beside Falkirk director Nigel Serafini, who was a pretty good centre half.
There you go.
Good stuff.
Maybe we could get Nigel on the pitch, help with the centre half situation.
What's
a message from Kirk here? It says, "Hi lads, great show, keep it up. I've been following Falkirk the last 32 years and I'm currently staying in Tweed in Northern Australia." That's New South Wales. But I did make it back on holiday for the League Cup group games and the start of the league campaign this year. Oh, brilliant. My friend brought this former Falkirk player born in Falkirk to my attention. Now, I have not heard of this guy, but apparently he was Ajax manager at one time and he played for Falkirk. Have you heard of Robert Thompson?
I've heard of a Robert Thompson, but probably not the same one that he's talking about.
I'm guessing not Roy, considering he was born in 1903.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's probably not.
But yeah, this is a guy called Robert Thompson, played for Falkirk, Sunderland, Newcastle. Actually, he moved between Sunderland and Newcastle, which must have been a big thing. But yeah, he managed Ajax apparently back in the day. Played for the Bairns.
Well, we've obviously got a few things in common with Ajax. Obviously, we're able to beat them, unlike some other Scottish teams.
Well,
and and then obviously we've got a ex-player manager. There you go.
Yeah, so there we go. So thanks, Kurt, for getting in touch, and I hope you are enjoying the podcast in Australia. That was terrible.
That was horrific.
Sorry about that. Listen, we're going to get into the Dunfermline game because obviously we've not got any game to look back on. So we're going to put a real focus on, the game against Dunfermline. We're going to speak to my friend Stephen Mill, who you may know from the radio. He's going to come on, and we're going to have a wee preview with him. I'm not dreading that, by the way. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people say, why are you rivals with Dunfermline? Now, there's never been a definitive answer for this, Ross. What's your understanding of it?
No, there's not been a definitive answer. In my lifetime, we've always just been about them. So either challenging for promotion, usually in the second tier, well, never mind the third tier, but usually the second tier, or fighting.
Just fighting
in general, but yeah, fighting relegation in the Premier League as well. I heard a story. It wasn't actually football, and it was something to do with coasters or something like
coaster.
Ice hockey or basketball or something like that. I don't know how true it is, but that was the chat I heard, and it was back in the 60s, and then it kind of went from there. Because I don't know if this rivalry's been there for like 70, 80 years. I don't think it has. I think it's more of a sort of last 40, 50 years. But it certainly exists now. And
I know, it's interesting, it's like some people say it was the minor strikes that, that caused it, but I don't know. I think it is just because we're towns of a similar size. We're one club teams, and it's almost like Newcastle Sunderland a wee bit. It's that river divides us.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's just we've always been there and thereabouts, always thinking one club's bigger than the other. And it's interesting that from a Dunfermline perspective, because you would assume Wraith Rovers would be their absolute immediate rivals, but they don't look at Wraith Rovers like that at all.
I don't think they do. No, I know a Falkirk-based Pars fan, and he certainly has us down as the big rival. I think the Wraith thing is a local thing, a bit of bragging rights in Fife, but in terms of the big sort of rivalry, and I know it's not a local derby because it's not as if we're 5 minutes away from them, but it is a rivalry, and you can feel it. You see it. It was the same as soon as the fixtures were out. We were looking for this game. They were looking for this game as well. And it's just, if anything, the match being off last week is probably hyped it up even more because we're all desperate to get back to the football. And I think there'll be a real good crowd at the game on Saturday.
I think it'll be a really big crowd.
I do. I think it'll be great.
I'd actually grabbed a section. I read the Courier. I got sent an article from the Courier, so I'm going to read this out to you, Ross. Get your take on it. So they've got key players and potential weaknesses for Falkirk. Let's see if you agree with. So they've highlighted Cal Morrison continues to wow and frustrate for the Bairns and his club's top scorer in the league with 3. He's the most accurate crosser in the division, finding his target 83% of the time, and has more touches in the opposition area than any other League One player. That was, for me, was a staggering statistic.
The touches I could understand, because he has a lot of the ball. Finding his man 83% of the time absolutely shocks me.
I know, that absolutely shocks me. And then they've said on the other side, Aidan Nisbet can be a threat, but like Morrison, can drift out of the game. I think we'd all agree with that. Aidan Nesbitt's due a good game this week, surely. It's coming up for that 1-3, 1-4 game, isn't it?
3 or 4 weeks, so you never know. You never know.
Yeah.
I actually think he might be. I think he might be up for this. I think he will start. I think there will be changes. I think McGuffey will probably come out. Maybe Lowell.
Yeah.
But if Nesbitt starts, I actually think he'll be up for this. With being a bit, because he has got a little bit about him. Like he likes that. Do you know what I mean? You can tell when he's up for it. Like that Hibs game, he was proper up for it, and I think he'll be up for this. But we need him to be up for it every single week, not just big games or when he fancies it. You know.
They also highlight midfield, an area where Falkirk can boast some talent. Obviously, Stephen McGinnon there. Falkirk have outpassed every side in the league other than Airdrie, and they have the highest passing accuracy with another 83%.
Again, it's a good start. A good start. Absolutely, yeah. I know we see a lot of the ball, but I think our moan sometimes that we don't. Well, we definitely know we don't we always pick the right option when we've got it, but. That is a high percentage, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. I didn't. Again, a statistic that I didn't realise. And obviously, Gary Oliver for his record against Dunfermline. This is incredible, and long may it continue, Gary. Especially this weekend. 6 times for Morton last season he scored. 4 of those were against Dunfermline. 2 seasons before that, playing for Queen of the South. 3 of his 5 goals were against Dunfermline. Fantastic.
Well, listen, pile the money on him. I'll let's do it. Pile the money. Oliver to score.
All on Oliver. Weaknesses, they say the defence looks like a weakness. And when you look like it, when obviously we started the season, you're going, that defence looks brilliant. But they've pointed that out. Obviously, we've conceded the 3 against Dundee. Obviously, Kelty had the goals against 2 at Kelty. So... and then they've highlighted the goalkeeper could probably be got at as well. After 75 matches.
They're probably not saying anything that's massively shocking because it's factual, isn't it? We've conceded 8 or 9 goals and they've only conceded 1. But we're better for them to lose a few goals on Saturday. And I genuinely think we will score a couple of goals at least.
Absolutely. So that's just a wee preview. We're going to get into a bit more with Stephen in a bit. But remember, if you want to get in touch with the podcast, please DM on Twitter, Facebook, or email us at falkirkdaftpod@gmail.com.
This is Falkirk Daft.
So on Falkirk Daft, we like to ask a big question every week, and we want an answer this week to this question. What is your favourite memory against them? I think it's quite easy. It's quite simple for me, Ross. It has to be the semi-final. I think it's the obvious one, but I think just how much we dominated that day. I mean, albeit it was Tam Scobie's shoulder and a penalty from Arfield that won us game, but just the day itself. I remember having a smashing night out. After that game in Glasgow, out pretty much till 3 or 4 in the morning that night. I had a great time, and it was just a great day all around, to be at Hampden and beat your biggest rivals.
It was phenomenal. I remember, I'm sure you were there as well. Remember, I think we were 7:30 in the morning. We started over at one of the guys' flats. Remember, we Lewis's flat.
Yeah.
Big Latapi flag out the window.
Is that the day we lost the big Latapi flag?
No. Well, no. That was the final, I think. Yeah. That went walkabout. But no. That what a start to the day, and then the game itself. Do you know? It's in terms of occasion, there probably hasn't been a bigger result because it's at Hampden. there was a pretty big crowd considering the two teams. I think it was like 24, 25,000. The winner goes through to the final. And let's not forget, it was going to be guaranteed European football as well.
That's right.
There's not been a bigger prize between the two teams. Regardless, it doesn't matter how many times, like I know Dunfermline fans have been singing their silly wee song about being top of the league, looking down on the Falkirk and all this nonsense, right? However, it's not a big game in the grand scheme of things when you look at it against that. It's a tough ask to beat that one.
No, are you going for that as well then?
In terms of occasion, the most memorable one though for me is when we beat them 3-0 to relegate. Well, they were already going down.
Oh, that was a great day.
That
was a great day.
Was it 2006? I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And packed away end behind the goal. We were in Elizabethan like we will be on Saturday. The place was packed out. It was a party atmosphere because we knew we were doing really well. We were pushing for, well, I don't think we could have finished in the top 6, but I think we're the best of the rest.
Yeah.
They were so going down. They had that manager who looked like a PE teacher. What was his name? Stephen Kenny or something like that.
That's right, yeah.
It was just beautiful. And it was like the full day was just awful. It was brilliant for us, awful for them. And it couldn't have got any better.
I know. I just Pedro's third goal. It was just beautiful.
Oh, it was a piece, and there was a.
No, was that Stokes hat? That was Stokes hat trick. Or was that?
No, that was Stokes hat trick was the first game, and then the second game was Pedro, Stevie Thompson, I think, maybe scored, and maybe Alan Gow. Might have been Alan Gow's last game before he buggered off to Ibrox, I think.
Again, he scored that season again in the last minute, didn't he? At our place, we scored that last minute winner, which was beautiful as well. Yeah. But I got big Kenny Milne's top after that game.
He chucked it into the crowd, didn't he?
Chucked it into the crowd, aye. I got big Kenny.
On Saturday.
What was that? I know, maybe I should.
On Saturday.
Maybe I should actually, but that was an absolute belter that game. What a day. And then Casper was in the goals for us, and I remember going back, and we went back to the stadium, and Casper's maw was there in the stadium. We started a chant for Mrs. Schmeichel. Do you remember that?
I do. That was superb.
Brilliant. But great memories against them. But you've been sharing your memories as well. We'll kick off with Matthew, who says, has to be the Boxing Day game when we beat them with Alston scoring in the 90th minute. It was made much better when we were all making fun of them going bust.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was right. The away end went bonkers that day. Absolutely bonkers. Runhouse 71, Scott McKenzie's rocket at East End Park for him, or the last minute Evo Den Beeman header equaliser right in front of the Bairns fans as well.
That was great.
I can still feel it. I'm actually getting so edgy about Saturday already.
Oh, I know, reading all these eyes.
I can't wait for Stephen to come on.
Brian, has to be the semi-final unless they go on to beat us in the final one day. They'll never top that. Correct? That's what you said, Ross.
Yep, definitely. Alan says we weren't even playing them for my favourite moment. Falkirk drew 1 each at a very sunny Clydebank back in May 1994 to win the league, and they tanked Clyde 5-0. All we needed was a point, 5-0, and they won fuck all. I'm actually buzzing for this already. I just want Saturday now.
Big. Went for the Stokes, keepy uppy, and the Conga down the Dunfermline game, lording it over them. Oh, that Stokes hat trick in the keepy uppies was just.
I forgot that. Remember the Herald actually used that Dunfermline. Oh,
Dunfermline, beautiful.
Yep. Gordon, the second goal in the cup semi-final when the realisation that we were going to qualify for Europe for the first time ever properly set in.
I know. And what a European campaign it was. Andrew, this is one out of the blue, by the way. Andrew said it has to be the Davis Keeler Dunn sending the scum home raging after a 1-0 win at East End Park.
Yeah, and
it's a sleeper hit. It's a sleeper hit.
It's a good shout out as well. Plus, at that point, it was still in our. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but that was still in our hands to stay up.
Yeah.
And that was a big win because it meant we could go to the next game. We actually a bit of something behind us that we might actually do it. We didn't, obviously, but that kind of gave us that on to the next week type momentum. So, since 1876, says the Scottish Cup won at Brockville in the 1997 Cup run, beg your pardon. Sheer bedlam in the choir at full time and a top night out after it as well.
That one really stands out for me as well. That was great. Hagen's header and it was absolutely.
Crunchy's goal was a peach, and then he ran to the choir and yeah.
It was a beautiful day. Another beautiful day. Dale, the hippo incident and the whole stadium going nuts, none more than the goalie at the ref, who now in turn is a ref.
The goal is a ref?
I didn't realise that. I can't remember.
I hope he's not the I hope he's not the fucking ref on Saturday. Can you imagine?
I know.
Do you know, I forgot about that. That was a beautiful moment as well, and everybody knew. You could just tell. It probably didn't help the fact there was 3,000 Bairns fans claiming for the thing behind the goals.
I know.
I think the fan thing does make a difference. I know.
Yeah, I think we'll take a really big support.
Difference, but
yep.
I don't know. Sean, probably Zach Rudden's winner at East End. A bit of magic in amongst an otherwise miserable season. Absolutely. Yeah.
Andrews went for the semi as well. It's the first game he's seen when he came back and leave from the army. While Ian has went for Super Tuesday, the Hampden semi and the Alan Gow last minute winner at the Falkirk Stadium. Yogi's last minute header at Brockville to beat them 3-2 also deserves a mention.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. That was I think that may have been the first game of the season when we got relegated in '93. And Yogi fired in an absolute... Well, I'm saying it was a bullet header. That was what was in my head. Yeah. But part of me, I might need to watch that one back because I actually think it almost kind of trickled in the net. Gordon says the semi-final, they didn't even have a shot at goal in anger all day. Beautiful.
And Jim finishes up with, easy, when they scored a rare goal at Brockville, they were celebrating like they'd won the cup, but it was noticed that the stand-side linesman had his flag up just as they were about to kick off. Not only was the goal chucked off, but Neil Cooper got a red card to boot. We won. Yeah.
Love it.
Love it.
A story on the back of that one. I'm sure we'll get him on at some point. Big Bairns fan, Scott Steele. I'm sure the story goes that they sent Elliott's Player of the Season award to East End Park, and it was for Neil Cooper.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Oh man, I'm so hyped for this weekend. I'm so hyped now.
Can't wait.
This is Falkirk Daft.
So every week in Falkirk Daft, we look ahead to our next opponents, and obviously it's them this Saturday. And I had to invite one of them on, and unfortunately I know one of them. I work beside him. You might know him from the radio. He does the big Saturday football show across Scotland. He also does a podcast. You know, he does drive time. He does all sorts of stuff. And unfortunately, like I say, I have to work with him every day. It is Stephen Mill. How are you, Stephen?
Thank you very much for that very kind build-up, because I thought it was going to be a lot worse than that, to be perfectly honest with you. So that was fine.
This is going to come, Stephen. It's fine.
That's all right. That's fine. I'm well prepared. That's all right. Don't worry.
He's sitting here smug on Zoom, and he's come in with Falkirk Shite as his name today as well. Very good, Stephen. Very good. And so it starts. Listen, obviously the Pars off to a good start to the season, unbeaten. 4 wins, 2 draws, but only 1 win in the last 3. I would like to add at that point. 8 goals for 1 against. How has he been looking this season, Stephen?
Well, I think we're looking a lot more solid. I mean, it's not hard to be better than what we've been for the last couple of years, because we've been absolutely honking.
Welcome to the club, everyone.
But I mean, what we are finding, I think, is that, you know, even though our squad probably isn't where James McPake wants it to be in terms of, you know, he's been speaking about we need to bring in a few more bodies just to add a wee bit of competition more than anything. But we're sat there with 4 or 5 strikers, unfortunately. They're still not the best. But, I mean, you've got to bear in mind the level of opposition in League One, and, you know, it's pretty rank. So with that, we're top of the league, and I'd be disappointed if we didn't go straight back up, to be perfectly honest with you. Seeing what I've seen so far, anyway, definitely.
Well, you've not played the best team in the league yet, Stephen, so...
No, you're right. We're yet to play.
He's trying to think of a team here. He's trying to think of a team here.
You've got me there. No, to be fair, like, obviously, I think with Falkirk, like, obviously it's a huge game for both sets of fans and for both the teams as well. I just hope that James McPake is on board with this as well, because I remember speaking to Paul Hartley, fantastic Falkirk manager in my opinion. But I was doing an interview with him for a podcast that was probably about, you know, a couple of years ago anyway. It was before the pandemic. And as I said to him, I was a Dunfermline fan, and he was like, by the way, what the fuck's all that about with Falkirk? I didn't hate a fucking Scooby when I came in. And I was like, well, you soon found out. Because he was like, they absolutely hate you, they hate you. And I was like, yeah, I know, it's very much reciprocated. But I just hope that James McPake is up to speed with how important this game is for the fans, because, as soon as the fixture list came out, these are the ones that, and I'm sure you boys are the same, it's the one that you look for. And, it's the only silver lining about getting relegated last season is that we get to beat you guys 4 times a season. So that's great.
I know. And Agent Yogi's, rejoined the group now. So thanks, Big John, for that as well. We money's in the post. Right, so
John, the thing is, there's a few Bairns fans who are ex-Bairns players who are in the Dunfermline setup, so they know what this fixture's all about.
Do you know what? If you're going to put money on anyone to score, we all know who it is. Kevin fucking O'Hara.
No. Well, I mean, I wouldn't be too confident on that one, to be perfectly honest with you, seeing what I've seen of Kevin O'Hara over the last sort of 2 years or so. But yeah, and obviously you boys have got Ryan Williamson as well, who, I actually really liked at Dunfermline. He got a really bad injury when we won League One.
Oh, there's a surprise.
I know, but I know him as well. Like, and he's a nice guy, and obviously, like, he's gone to Falkirk now, so I've deleted him off of all social media and blocked him on everything. But no, like, I think, if Ryan's playing really well, which I know is few and far between, but I did see earlier on this season he scored a great goal.
Oh, big cat, mate! He was unplayable that day, and then he's been injured ever since.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's total feast or famine with him. But like, I do feel a little bit sorry for him, because he got a really bad injury the year we won League One under Alan Johnson, and I think had he not got that injury, he probably would have kicked on and not been playing with Dunfermline, and certainly not been playing with Falkirk either. He would have been much higher up.
Yeah. Other Bairns, you've got obviously the goalkeeper Dennis Mehmet. He's been sort of starting, and Todorov as well, who seems to have done quite well for you.
Yeah, well, not last season. I mean, that's what I'm saying. But we do seem to be struggling for goals, because you read out the stats at the top there, and we've only conceded the 1 goal. So defensively, we're looking pretty solid. Dennis was in and out of the team last season. I think there was a few things going on in his personal life, and that affected him, like, on the field as well. So it looks like this season he's got a steady defence in front of him with Benedictus. Breeden's been playing really well as well. So we're solid at the back. In terms of Todorov, every time I saw him last season, he looked like somebody who'd never played football before. But he does seem to be chipping in with a few goals, and he is a big, sort of awkward, gangly guy, isn't he? So, I would be more than happy for him to score the winner on Saturday. I just think there seems to be a wee bit of momentum behind Dunfermline, whereas you guys are a wee bit more stop-start, a wee bit more inconsistent.
Well, that's it. It's like, this league, like, I guess, the Championship, if you can put a run together and a decent run at that, you're going to be there and thereabouts. And like you say, Steve, we've been very stop-start, unfortunately. I mean, we're flying 3 wins in a row, and then Kelty, the kind of wheels came off a wee bit on that.
Nowhere that Kelty game as well. Just the heads were wrong. The mindset of the players that day just seemed absolutely all over the place. And I know they drew with yourself, Stephen, but I think otherwise they've been really poor against everyone else. So I'm hoping it's a blip. I've
got a foot in the Kelty camp as well, because my dad is involved behind the scenes up there. So, they're right. Some of the results have been really poor, but I don't think all of their performances have been poor. Against us, I think a draw was probably a fair result. But even like a couple of games before that, I think they've been a wee bit unlucky. They're obviously missing Nathan Austin still. He only came back for injury, I think, last night in a friendly. So I think Kelty will be fine. I don't think that it wouldn't shock me if they take more points off of us or more points off of yous as the season goes on, because I think they'll be fine. Like, I don't think they'll be anywhere near the top, but I don't think they'll be anywhere near the bottom either. So I think they're probably just finding their feet under John Potter a wee bit. So I think that they'll be fine. So I'm not surprised that they're taking points off of us, and for them as well. Against us, that's their big game. Like, that's their big derby. And I think there was, 2,500 folk at Kelty, which they're absolutely cock-a-hoop with that. I'm not sure what the crowd was for you boys, but it would have been over 1,000 anyway, I would imagine.
I think it was about 1,500, Stephen, so there would have been a decent crowd in again, aye.
So, like the games against, us in particular, but also you boys, the Dunfermline connections that are at Kelty as well. Joe Cardle, who obviously scored, and then you've got Potts, the manager, and you've got Higgy, obviously. So there's plenty of Dunfermline connections who remember what it's like to play against Falkirk.
Of course there is. Of course there is. You talk about rivalry there, Stephen, and when, like, obviously, I guess Wraith Rovers got the Fife derby, but for you, what does the Falkirk v Dunfermline game mean?
I think it's different. So Wraith Rovers are just, I say this all the time, like Wraith Rovers are just, just Wraith Rovers. It is the Fife derby, but like the fixture I actually look forward to is the Falkirk one, because historically we've been so evenly matched, and I'm talking over the course of 30 years, 40 years or whatever it is. We've always been either fighting against relegation or fighting for promotion, and the games have always had an added meaning, whereas the Wraith Rovers games, it's the Fife derby, so obviously you want to win, but they're so far down the pecking order as far as I'm concerned, even though they're in the league above us. It doesn't bother me as much. Like, if we lose to Falkirk, that bothers me. If we lose to Wraith Rovers, I'm a bit like, even the wee teams have their day in the sun sometimes, so I'm not as bothered about that. But in terms of the Falkirk rivalry, and our boss at work as well is obviously a Falkirk fan. And I love it. I love everything about it. I love the banter between the two sets of supporters. I obviously get dogs abuse all the time, which, for me is water off a duck's back, because I just love winding people up. And I can take it as well, so it's fine. Yeah. And I know that you boys can take it, and particularly you, John, as well, because last season was a great laugh.
It was a wonder to see it every Monday. I was like, trying to get out the door, because obviously I do breakfast and Stephen does drive. I was like, right, fucking, let's get out of here before he comes in.
Annoyingly, there's 3 Falkirk fans in the office, and I'm not only a Dunfermline fan, so I don't know how you've managed to branch out. So, but yeah, for me, you've got the Fife derby. That's the derby. But this one is the big one, because it's the one that means the most, and historically has meant the most as well, because generally we've both been, as I say, going for promotion or fighting against relegation, which just elevates the game to another level, where it's not really been like that, bar the one season against Wraith Rovers, when we obviously beat them to the league title. But apart from that, there's not really been a competitive rivalry, if you like.
Yeah, interesting to say, I grabbed up the head-to-head. I don't know when this is from, but it's certainly the last 33 matches, and like you say, it's fairly even. I thought we'd won more than we had. It's Falkirk won 14, Dunfermline have won 10, 9 draws in that, and that's across all competitions. But it's an interesting stat, that, which is, I was like, oh.
No, John, it doesn't shock me though, because as Stephen said, it has been tight for as long as I've been going, and that's what late 80s, early 90s. It's always been tight games, tight seasons. I think that I can only remember one season where we were pretty hopeless, and Dunfermline were doing really well. And the old First Division Championship, I'm not even sure if it was called the Championship at the time, about 10, 11 years ago. Presley was obviously our manager, and that was a bit of a horrible season for us. But in terms of every other season, it's always been tight. And I think this is another one that's going to be tight. I think Saturday's going to be brilliant. Like Stephen, we were talking about before you came on, I think there'll be a big crowd. Everybody seems up for it. The postponed games last weekend, I think I've just heightened it in terms of like the anticipation for the game. So I think it's going to be brilliant. I do.
What's how many fans do you reckon you boys will bring?
I think 2,000.
I think a couple of thousand, which should be brilliant. And in League One, it's absolutely fantastic. It would be the biggest.
It'll certainly be bigger than some of the. I bet you it's bigger than some of the Premier League games going on at the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Like, even our attendances, our home attendances this season have been, above 4,000. So, and that's obviously, I think we've played Allo at home, Montrose. So it's hardly like teams who are bringing massive supporters. Actually, Airdrie brought more than I thought. Probably about sort of maybe 700, 800 or something like that, which and obviously they were on a decent run as well, so until they got pumped last time against Edinburgh
that was
City.
a mental result. Actually, talking about that, I bumped into Callum Tapping, who plays for Edinburgh in the pub there at the weekend, and I asked him, got his opinion, because obviously Edinburgh played both Dunfermline and Falkirk, and I said, who was a better team? I thought, I'll get the pros view on this, and he actually said he thinks Falkirk are a better team. It was similar scores, but obviously the Celtic result kind of knocked us a wee bit. But then you wait and see the result. Like you say, that result that Edinburgh had at the weekend before was just crazy.
I think with the when we played FC Edinburgh, it was they got a player sent off after like 15 minutes or something, so that skewed the game. Yes. So, like, I think, we could have ended up winning by about 8 goals. I think it was 3-0 in the end. But, obviously, if you get a man sent off after 15 minutes, that totally kills the game in terms of like a competitive game anyway. But no, that's good that you're actually making the trip across the Fife. Are you on a bus, or what you're doing? How are you getting to the game?
Elizabethan bus for Elliott's into the Elizabethan. There from 12 o'clock. Stephen, do you know what? It would be unfair because we've been asking Falkirk Daft audience what their favourite memory was against Dunfermline. What's your favourite memory against Falkirk?
Oh, there's a couple. I do remember playing yous. I don't know if it was the opening day of the season or the second day of the season, and it was the year we won the league under Jim McIntyre, and Pat Clark scored a winner fairly early. I think it was 1-0, but we were so dominant. Like, at no point was I worried about us losing the game. I think that might have been the year that you were referring to earlier on about how.
I think it was. It was at our place.
Yeah.
I remember it. We had a horrendous defender called Mehdi Khalis, who was a centre half, and he was hopeless. Absolutely.
Yes. I do remember him. So that season, I think we dominated you, and then obviously the final game of that season was against Falkirk, and you only brought about, I think it was about 14 fans to that match, and that's because we were getting the league trophy that day. So a really poor away support from you boys at that time. So I think it was like 3 or 4-0 or something. But you're right, it was under Presley. I also remember seemed to be under Leishman the second time round, where we came to the Falkirk Stadium and won on either Hogmanay or New Year's Day. So it was a New Year's derby, and we won. I think it was 2-1, and I remember being there with my mates, but. Yeah, like obviously, like, as you were saying, like I had a wee look at the results going back the last sort of like 10, 15 years. They're pretty tight, and there's been the odd season, as you say, and there's been the odd result either way. But generally, there's only about a goal in it. There's been quite a lot of draws as well. So, yeah, like I mean, I would like our record against Falkirk to be better, and I think I'm the sort of same boat as John, but the other way about. I was like, I thought we beat Falkirk more than that, but because even the season you got relegated, you ended up beating us you beat us twice at East End, which was absolutely mental because you were rank, but yet you still beat us. So I think we got into the playoffs. So it's just been it's been weird over the last wee while, but. It's good that we decided to, out of the kindness of our own hearts, get relegated last season so that you could get a wee bit of money in your coffers this year. So try and keep you afloat,
Just who should, out with the correct Bairn, Stephen, who should we look out for on Saturday?
I think in terms of going forward, I mean, you've mentioned Todorov and the other ex-Bairns players. I think, we're not electric going forward, is what I would say. Defensively, we're solid. We've brought in Chris Mockery from Dundee United, and he has impressed quite a bit. So if I was to pick anyone, I'd probably pick Mockery. He seems to be, filling that void between midfield and the forward line, and he seems to be linking up the play pretty well. So I think if Falkirk can do a decent job of keeping him quiet, they'll probably have a decent chance of a result. I mean, and that's the thing, like John McGlynn obviously knows his stuff, and he's been kicking around League One and the Championship for a long, long time. So he'll be well prepped, I would imagine. So I think probably him if I was to pick anyone.
Okay. Right, score predictions, boys. Let's get them out there. Ross.
I would never say anything different. I'm going to go for a Falkirk win, and I think I fancy us for a couple of goals. I'm going to say 2-1 Bairns.
2-1 Bairns. Stephen?
4-0 Dunfermline, obviously.
There we go. Straight off the bat. Do you know what? I think a wee sneaky 1-0 to the Bairns. I'm going to go for a sneaky because Dunfermline, like you say, the defence looks pretty solid. But we're not going to say anything else, are we? Bet365 have got home win 19-20, draw 12-5, and away they've got 9-4. So against Falkirk.
By the way, that's pretty decent odds. That's pretty decent odds.
Yeah, you would say that's actually not too bad. So
I mean, decent odds. I mean, obviously, I was meaning for Dunfermline. I thought it would be a lot shorter than that. So
brilliant. Right, Stephen. Listen, thank you very much. And just one final question: were you at the Cup semi-final when Falkirk beat Dunfermline 2-0? Just one final question for you.
You're breaking up, John. I'm really sorry.
Okay.
I'm going to go. Sorry. See you later, mate.
See you later.
This is Falkirk Daft.
So that is it for Falkirk Daft this week. A special preview show for you. We'll hopefully be back to normal service next Monday, where we'll look back at the Dunfermline game. And hopefully a Falkirk win, Ross.
It has to be a win, John. It has to be a bloody win.
It does, doesn't it? It really does. Is a draw enough? Would you take a draw?
No. It's got to be a win on Saturday for me, and I think we'll get it. I do. I think they are really, really cocky, as we've just heard, right? And their fans are giving it on the social media and stuff as well. I think they're walking into what they think is going to be a fairly routine home win, and I don't think it's going to be.
Well, let's hope so. We'll be in Elizabethan. What time are we going to be there from, Ross?
About 12, I'd think, by the time the bus gets there. So,
what time's the bus leaving Elliot's?
Back 11, 11, something like that. So
long. We'll see you at the Elizabethan. Remember, please rate and review us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Falkirk Daft. See our fantastic faces on YouTube. And also, if you want to join in our group chat, you can do that. That's on Discord. All the links are in the bio below. So get signed up for our Discord. Join in the chat. Especially, it's going to be feisty come Saturday, I suspect. Also, we're looking for sponsors. Got a couple of sponsors coming on board, which we're really pleased to say. But if you would like to sponsor the podcast, we'd love to hear from you. Please get in touch with us, falkirkdaftpod@gmail.com, or you can drop us a DM on our socials. Right. I don't know. I'm fucking psyched now. I'm psyched. Right on Saturday.
I can't have 2 days of work. I'm going to have to just try and get through the next 2 days, and then it's Saturday morning.
Yeah. And as we say on Falkirk Daft all the time, Ross,
expect the unexpected.
More Bears!